Yo, we're right on High 100, May 24th, 2025. Even in Arcadia, Superman, Marlboro Rojo. Let's go.
Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and yeah, Sleep Token Album Bomb, and this, it's Billboard Breakdown. This is a week for the Billboard Hot 100 that means both more and less than it should. On the one hand, for the first time possibly ever, not just a rock act, but a metal act delivered an album bomb to the Hot 100. Yes,
Crazy.
metal act is Sleep Token, and you can insert all the caveats in the world about how metal they really are. I don't particularly care. On some level, this is meaningful. It breaks the lie that has been pushed to rock and metal bands that all they need is mainstream rock radio, that there's no real chance or audience for them to compete on the Hot 100 because the genres are dead. If they were to adjust to more of a streaming ecosystem, they could make a play in this arena. On the other hand, it is Sleep Token, where I made an extensive video on my main channel, not reviewing the album, but instead providing analysis on the popular phenomenon itself. And none of it's really going to last into next week because of the Morgan Wallen nuke coming in from orbit, but it's still worth highlighting, at least to me. Of course, none of it really impacts our top 10, where for another week, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA holds the number one, and this is probably going to be its last week.
Wait, where's the music?
Beyond the Morgan Wallen factor of it all, while the streaming is still ridiculously consistent, the radio is slipping.
Oh, because it starts off with the fucking thing. I forgot.
Is not. That being Ordinary by Alex Warren at number 2 with better streams and sales, just trying to narrow that radio margin as fast as possible. It's not going to number one next week, but the week after, maybe. Then we got Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars holding at number 3. It's bleeding across the board, but it got just enough of a margin to hold over a bar song Tipsy by Shabuzi at number 4, which has slightly better streams and wavering radio, but not enough to seriously challenge that margin. And yet they both held over Nokia by Drake at number 5, which actually lost some streaming position and may have actually started peaking on the radio. The push seems to be stalling out, at least for the current moment. But at least it held up over I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen up to number 6. It's still gaining on the radio, the streaming is stable, it actually had a good sales week, and it's likely going to be even higher next week. Just our goddamn luck. But here's the thing. It did this largely not at the expense of the next two songs, because Lose Control by Teddy Swims is still goddamn here at number 7, because despite being on the downswing pretty much across the board, except for a sporadic radio boost from out of nowhere, so also is Beautiful.
Oh yeah, sporadic radio boost, fucking plus $2 million to fucking radio station. Like, oh my god, bro.
Things by Benson Boone at number 8, and neither are.
Whoa, how crazy! The radio just miraculously started going up again. Like, what, bro? Like, what?
Down to number 9.
These fucking stations are getting millions of dollars to fucking play these songs.
Streaming and is thus more vulnerable to those margin fluctuations. And that takes us to Anxiety by Doechii down at number 10. It might be on the top 10 radio with so sad sales and YouTube, but man, streaming does not want this. The top 10's been largely stagnant, and I'm not exactly thrilled Morgan Wallen's going to be the one to wipe it all out. But if we're looking at someone who will probably lose the most, it might be Doechii and this song. And that naturally takes us to our losers and dropouts. And you know, I don't want to say that after last week's rant around some songs with questionable rationale for being in the bottom 50 despite being in the recurrency window, that it changed anything with Billboard. But I am saying that across the board here, we saw exits for Residuals by Chris Brown, BMF by SZA, and Like Him by Tyler the Creator featuring Lola Young, all that were culprits to this issue. All I'll say, correlation's not causation. I'm not claiming credit. They're all making the year-round list anyway. Nah, Mark,
so you already know there's like some fucking Billboard employee that watch. Like, come on, bro. There has to be. Like, 100%. I feel like there has to be.
On to the expected...
I mean, isn't this guy... Wasn't he in like a Billboard article before? I'm pretty sure he was, no?
healthy list of losers in an album bomb week, although
So like there has to be
probably
like
fewer
one
than
guy
you might
watching it at
expect,
least.
and nearly all of them are in the bottom half of the Hot 100. Let's start off with the continued losers from last week. What Was That by Lorde just does not have any traction at 81, nor does Money on Money by Young Thug featuring Future at 98. Then you have Texas by Blake Shelton getting the Nashville radio rotation out at 93, and Denial Is a River by Doechii is probably gone next week, if not right after at 97. Then we get returns that are slipping. Por Esos Ojos by Fuerza Regida fell down to 80. They're getting another new song this week, Don't Feel Bad. And Hands of Time by Eric
Why
Church
would I
stumbled
ever
off
feel
the return
bad?
to 87.
Like
and then
what?
the new arrivals falling back, we got Thought It Was Love by Ty Myers slipping down to 94, and Backup Plan by Bailey Zimmerman and Luke Combs just not impressing much at 50. Finally, the rest. Bad Dreams by Teddy Swims fell to 41. I know it's going to make the year-end list, but you can't just rotate out Lose Control instead. I got similar thoughts to Are You Even Real with Giveon falling to 96. I like more Teddy Swims variety. Hard Fought Hallelujah by Brandon Lake took a body blow to 67. Backseat Driver by Kane Brown slid down to 78. Twilight Zone by Ariana Grande just is not holding up at 79. And Loco by Net and Vega is probably going to be on the cusp of the year-end list down at 95. But now on to our returns and gains, and let's handle the latter first, even if I don't expect any of them to really last next week, especially those coming up in country. Yeah, it's kind of cool that Am I Okay by Megan Maroney did indeed have some of that extra juice to climb up to 39. Has me wondering if someone at her label slipped some projections over to Billboard, given how Music Row controls the radio over there, and that's her primary impetus. And I also like that Amen by Shabuzi and Jelly Roll has some momentum at 64, but Morgan Wallen's going to wipe both these out if we're unlucky. I do not have high expectations. Then Timeless by The Weeknd and Playboy Carti jumped up to 14 again. Apparently this is tied to that Doechii remix that didn't make any sense to me, but I guess enough folks were curious, and that places a lot of the assessments of how she's getting pushed in the natural scene versus her natural groundswell into question. I honestly thought nobody were going to care about the remix. That's what social media was telling me. But when we get to our return,
I saw people hating on it more than not caring about it.
Look, outside of Ribs by Lorde at 99, it's the Sleep Token story, with Damocles back at 72, Emergence at 58, and Caramel at 57. And yeah, we are in small album bomb territory for this. A full 7 songs comprising the rest of the album in the top 100. So by my own rules, I'm focusing on the best, the worst, and the top 40. Outside those, Provider at 77, Look to Windward at 66, Even in Arcadia at 61, and Dangerous at 56. And okay, this week might actually wind up being kind of short as a result. I sure as hell am not complaining given the hell that's coming next week. So let's get to our remaining new arrivals, starting with number 100, Infinite Baths by Sleep Token.
Look. Sleep Token, okay? As a non-metal fan, there's you can get away with a little bit of metal, but once you start doing all that weird satanic demonic stuff, I gotta get you away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta push you away. A little bit too heavy for me type shit. Go back to the wear me out like Brian. Like, yeah, get back to that, buddy. Come on. What are we doing? This is a metal band? Like, what? I didn't even know.
I know what some of you are going to say, that of course I think this is the best song from Even in Arcadia because it's the most metal. From the extended slow build clocking over 8 minutes, from the hazy melodic backdrop to the echoing clap, to the churning riffs building over that second hook, until we get that drippy reverb guitar, and then the final passage, which might be the closest thing to extreme metal that's ever charted on the Hot 100, with the cacophonous grinding breakdown, and then Vessel delivering something close to a guttural black metal howl before the riff thunders down over the gloss. And yeah, some of that is true. I honestly think I might like Vessel's shredded, dirtier vocals more than the over-polished clean singing. But you know what? I actually like the thematic conclusion to the song as well. The title is inspired by a quantum mechanics thought experiment, referring specifically to extreme heat and energy environments, where the temperature remains somewhat constant and also relaxing to equilibrium in any quantum system despite any changes in those systems within it, which will then create infinite freedom within that environment at such high energy. And Sleep Token adapts the metaphor to be more metatextual.
I think I understood that.
All this newfound freedom, which despite any internal strife, he can find that equilibrium between love and wrath, or in terms of genre, the softer pop elements and the metal, hitting a certain transcendent equilibrium and blinding fury. It's kind of a nice case where the metaphor works as both a solid album closer and is mirrored pretty well in the composition. And while it takes a little longer than I prefer to fully get there, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say it's pretty good. I'll take this. Number 91, Nope, You're Too Late, I Already Died by Wi-Fi Skeleton and I Want to Be a Jackal.
So I think it's a good song, but it's kind of sad, like how like this feels so random. You know what I'm saying? Like I may have heard some stuff from Wi-Fi Skeleton like before he died, but like it just felt so random, and like this song charting feels even more random. Like that, this is crazy.
Lanterns.
Yeah.
Well, this is awkward. Y'all probably don't recognize any of the names on this song. Don't worry, I didn't either. And the more I learned about this situation, the sadder it got. So, Wi-Fi Skeleton was a small YouTube music artist who worked in hyperpop and appears to have had some ties to the YouTube commentary community under the name Cyrus, with all manner of swirling allegations around that.
I think I've heard of this guy. Wait, because like before I didn't know like who they were before they died, obviously, but Cyrus, that sounds very fucking familiar.
Really don't want to untangle or dig into, mostly because a couple weeks ago he died of a drug overdose. So his fans and some of the community seem to have boosted this song, produced by I Want to Be a Jack-O-Lantern, in order to chart this week, and probably just this week in tribute. And with that in mind, I want to have some care here, because it's very deliberately unpolished. Not so much the glossier side of hyperpop, but the sort of shaggy, guitar-driven bedroom pop that's got
I like this song.
decent melodic loop, no chorus, and both acts mumbling through the verses that don't really connect together beyond some hazy on Wii, with Wi-Fi Skeleton mentioning some self-conscious regret and a fear of saying the wrong thing, with the other verse that's just awash in emo misery around this girl that he can't pursue. Yeah, there's some sad irony with this song's title, given Wi-Fi Skeleton's passing. It's not the original title, I should add that, but given his following nowadays was actually smaller than my main channel before he passed, it feels like a tribute that just got way bigger and outside a community than it maybe should have. It's more amateur than outright bad, and with all due respect, I'll leave it at that. Number 86, You Had to Be There by Megan Maroney and Kenny Chesney. I remember when Kelsey Ballerini made Half of My Hometown with Kenny Chesney a couple years ago, and I was really hoping it could have become a proper hit beyond sleeper status. It never got past the top 50 on the Hot 100, but it did really well on the country charts, especially for airplay, and I thought of that listening to this song, which is not nearly as good. Megan Maroney's perpetually weary vocal delivery doesn't feel that effective here, and she just can't match Kenny Chesney's energy at all, but I actually think conceptually this uses your Kenny Chesney a little bit better. It tells the story of Megan Maroney going to a concert with a bunch of her friends when she was younger before being on stage herself, with Kenny Chesney as more of the mentor telling her to soak it all in, make it a memory to capture the magic where you tell other folks, yeah, you had to be there. And hell, when they're actually touring together, that's a pretty sweet sentiment, I get it. The problem is that the song doesn't really go for broke to really evoke that wistful nostalgia. I'm not sure it feels big enough. The acoustic guitar feels a little brittle alongside the flimsy drums and the pedal steel, and while the textures are pleasantly mostly organic and country, there's no muscle or brighter flash that can really push this to another level or maybe even a higher tempo. So yeah, not bad, but just need a little bit more.
Man, why'd she get like that?
Make it worth remembering. Number 75, Gethsemane by Sleep Token.
Um, I like this song, but I felt like I kind of got like blue balls, you know, in the beginning. Like the beginning of the song was really good, and then just kind of like, you know, for me, at least.
So this is the other somewhat legit song from Sleep Token alongside Infinite Bath. So I were to
Notice how there's more metal in this song. I like it less.
stretch Damocles.
I mean, it kind of just says
the album
everything.
ends well. And while I don't love the wispy and over-processed falsetto that reminds me a little too much of Sam Smith at their most tedious, there is something heart-wrenching about being stuck trying a little too hard in a bad and failing relationship, trying to convince himself that he loved her more than he did. Or if we're going to indulge some of the metatextual framing, trying to adapt to more accessible genres, play in those bigger rooms that has them lose who they are. Punctuated by a pretty slick math rock section, and then this jagged slice of howling
Math
breakdown.
rock? What
So
the
why
fuck
in
is
the nine
math
hells
rock?
would you then add this ticking trap expansion which kills any momentum, and this really pissy outro that's then trying to diss this person and their good day job but bad karma, a constant pain that of course Vessel can understand because his throne didn't come with a gun. And oh my god, how is this so bereft of presence or potency or menace? I honestly hope the outro is at least partially referring to that mainstream pop pivot with some meta text rather than being more literal, referencing stability or security that he's choosing to reject for his own health or state of mind, building off of Damocles. I mean, it's just kind of a shame because this could have been great. As it is, I will call it decent and just say it should have been much better. Number 74, Marlboro Rojo by Fuerza Regida.
Wow, it's the same fucking shit again? Wow, no way, it's the same fucking song. Oh my god.
At this point, it feels like my dislike of Fuerza Regida is reaching a different level. They're one of the most brang and obnoxious acts in the regional Mexican scene, and they're somehow also one of the most consistently successful with this song from the deluxe edition of their new album, and man, it's not helping. The painfully brittle acoustics, the farting horns, the mix that sounds like demo quality with any blending or application of reverb, where even if the acoustic outro is technically impressive, it doesn't redeem any of this. The lyrics also are not good. A lot of Mexican cartel posturing, flexing weapons and armor, which if the hook is to be believed is to impress some girl,
weapons
which might
and
feel a little more
armor.
credible if the production didn't sound like it was coming out of a tin can. It doesn't convey any sense of
I know what he
menace.
means, but
In
like
short,
imagine them
Fuerza
like
Regida
rapping
is somehow
about,
falling back
yeah, I've
into
got
bad
fucking
habits and getting
iron
worse.
armor in this
So
bitch.
yeah, it blows. Next, number
Don't pull up
70,
on my game.
Self by Sleep Token.
You know it's not a game or a fantasy, and I don't even know who I used to be, but nothing.
This is like the only non-single from this album that I actually like, and it's the one song that's not even metal. It's just too funny.
It's the same, and some things have to change now.
I already know Mark's not gonna like. There's no way Mark's gonna like this song.
Please get Vessel away from the shuffling trap drill percussion. It's starting to sound ridiculous, especially when it's paired with what sounds like a fluttery marimba and the overly quantized vocal production that tries to pile on the choral overdubs and all the pitch shifting. It sounds like the worst kind of self-serious Jacob Collier imitation, and yet it feels so frail and underpowered, especially when there's no riff at all to add some credible muscle. I'd like some metal, please. And all of that would be bad enough, but then we get to the content, which amidst all the arch pseudo-romantic framing, it is once again all about Sleep Token as a band, challenging the audience to dance on the line and accept the difficult changes and transitions in their sound in comparison with the faithless. And look, if you're trying to make rap that sounds like something that should have been left for dead and rightly abandoned 7 years ago, and then trying to flex while doing so with lines like one look at my past self, double take on my cash flow, along with how he's so sick of apologizing for past mistakes that he does not elaborate on as he tries to cut out his demons and yet maintain his dark side. Yeah, okay, I'll admit that could be a creative balancing act, especially when going mainstream, but it should not sound this embarrassing. It's the sort of track where if there's any self-awareness, it should be at the forefront of how all this is a real bad decision to water down your sound. Do us all a favor, skip this. It's the worst on the album. And finally,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Mark. I'm sorry, bro.
Number 16,
It's so
Superman
funny.
by Morgan Wallen.
Please, Sleep Token, go fully pop. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Sell out, please. Oh my God.
Naturally, of course, we have to end this week with a precursor of next week with Morgan Wallen, and okay, you know what? Sidebar. There's a song on Luke Combs' last album called Remember Him That Way. It's a tribute to his father getting older that also plays with references to Superman, but is generally underplaying it because it's more about what his dad means to him, with a real trace of childlike wonder that's never faded despite the S on his t-shirt. I bring this up because I've been hearing Superman references in songs for decades now, some good, but a lot of them bad. And while I don't want to make any SEO comparisons given that there's a Superman movie coming out this year, Morgan Wallen's version of the story is exactly a lot of what I don't like. It's basically an inverted version of the Luke Combs track, where he's speaking from the dad's point of view to his son and wanting to be the best version of himself for the kid, but the punchline is Superman is still just a man sometimes. And if I were to indulge my comic book fandom, I wish there was a little bit more emphasis on Clark Kent's empathy and the way to being Superman instead of all of Zack Snyder's Randian portentousness and Superman is some ubermensch. I want to hear the humanity, well, Kryptonian side, but more humanity. But to be blunt, Morgan Wallen's not a convincing Superman, and his struggles don't mirror Clark Kent's in the slightest, from the presumed mugshot to the immaturity or losing some girl. I hate the line, "That bottle's my kryptonite." Superman does not seek out kryptonite, it's not an addiction for him, the metaphor is weak, and while that might be what his son is seeing, that he is a Superman, and that Morgan Wallen wants to be that, no, in the context of the album, it just doesn't.
Does Morgan Wallen have a kid?
Pair that with the watery guitars around the pedal steel and the admittedly better blended trap-adjacent percussion and the overcompressed vocals. I mean, maybe Iron Man might be the better parallel if you want to mirror the demon in a bottle arc, but nah, it doesn't work for me. Not terrible, but I would prefer a man tomorrow who can actually crack a smile in the course of an album, or actually showcase, some hope. But yeah, not exactly a strong week, certainly ends on a bit of a down note, but I'll give Sleep Token this. Between Infinite Bats as the best and Gethsemane as the honorable mention, they are gonna take the top spot. They're also taking the dishonorable mention for Past Self, but that's more because Marlboro Rojo by Fuerza Regida, they're hitting the absolute bottom. Just a screamingly obnoxious song. Next week, yeah, you know it, Morgan Wallen and I'm the Problem. Well, yeah, he certainly is. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown and Affiliation Respect Pulse.
And I'll see it. All right, guys. Well, what do you guys think of new arrivals this week? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.